Hello friends, how are we today? I don't think I would be wrong in saying that the majority of us get our fish from the grocery store, right? I was watching videos on YouTube and I came across a gentleman by the name of Paul Saladino, I think his name is. I think he's got MD after his name. I think he's a doctor, I don't know. I assume so, with MD on the end, but could mean anything, right? It's YouTube. The first time I've ever come across him, and he was in Costco, and the headline on his video said, "We're being psyoped." And I think what he's trying to intimate is that a lot of the fish in Costco is farmed. It was talking about salmon mostly, is farmed, and it's not good for us. Now, there is farm salmon, and there is organic farmed salmon, and they're very, very different. Farm salmon is the salmon that you'll see a lot of in grocery stores. Don't get me wrong, it's all over the place. It's usually marked Atlantic salmon. I was actually in Trader Joe's the other day, and you could see it, the big sign saying Atlantic salmon, which I guess would be a selling point. Everyone's like, oh, salmon from the Atlantic, wonderful. But that's not where it's coming from. These are in farmed pens. They create areas like I would best describe them as like reservoirs, and they have them penned off where they grow the fish in these pens, these like reservoirs, and with I suppose particularly Atlantic salmon, as it's called, and farmed Atlantic salmon, should I say. And it is then grown in these pens, and they're fed some sort of meal, I think. I'm not quite sure what it is. They're fed, I believe it's meal, correct me if I'm wrong. And they're not fed healthily, and they're fed, part of the meal has some sort of dyeing agent in it, which gives salmon that red color. They're not naturally red because they're being farmed. They're not eating what they would ordinarily eat if they were wild. And so therefore they're having to put dye into what they feed them to give them the color that a person would expect when buying salmon. So this is not good for us. The dye is not good for us. The way they are farmed is not good for us. They swim in feces. It's very, very not nice. I feel sorry for the salmon, and most importantly, I feel sorry for me when buying salmon, because I like my food to have been treated well before it comes to me. And it doesn't sound like that's what's happening with Atlantic farmed salmon. Now, Atlantic wild salmon is completely different. And the way you know that there's a difference is that farmed salmon compared to wild salmon is a big difference in price point. Big. So when you see, and you're in a grocery store and you see salmon, and it's like $6 a pound, and it's Atlantic salmon farmed, that's that salmon. The salmon that's been dyed. Poor thing is swimming in its feces. It is the very cheaper end of the scale when it comes to how fish is being reared, and it is not a quality, dare I say it, product. It's not a quality food product. Wild salmon, on the other hand, is what you expect. It is wild salmon, wild Atlantic salmon, swimming in the Atlantic, I think, or depending on where it is, because there's other places that salmon comes from, wild salmon come from. If you see the salmon and it says wild, then you've got a quality piece of fish. Mr. Saladino, Paul Saladino, sorry, his name, from Paul Saladino's video, he met with a fishmonger who explained the difference between wild and farm salmon and types of farm salmon, which ones aren't that great and which ones are much better. And he mentioned that you can get good, well-reared, produced, farmed salmon, and it's usually organic. They are fed organically. They're not pumped with dye. They are fed with the same they're fed on the same diet as those the wild salmon would eat. It's created into a pellet too, I believe, but the pellet includes the vegetation that a wild salmon would eat. which is really important. So they get that pigmentation, that pink pigmentation or pink orange pigmentation that you get with salmon, which means we're not consuming dye. So organic salmon is the way to go. If we want to avoid the nasties. I'm really against the nasties. I think a lot of us have to deal with ailments. We have no idea where they come from or why we're dealing with them. So I have a feeling it is due to not particularly this issue, but this issue amongst others, where we're consuming things that our body doesn't really understand and it's creating problems for us. I was glad that he came on my timeline to remind me that I should be buying organic farm salmon, because I think some of the regular stuff has slipped into my diet, and it worries me. It just sounds really awful the way they're reared. I don't want to eat fish that is swimming in feces. The same way I am with meat. I want my cows to be grass fed. That's what I expect of a cow, right? I'm expecting them to eat grass. I want my chickens to be running free and not in these pens where they're picking at each other. Although I'm still not quite sure with the way the breast is on many chickens. I don't like all that. They're obviously feeding them heavily to make them fat. But I just prefer my food to be reared as you'd expect it to, like on a farm, right? Where, like Old MacDonald years ago. That's how I like to have my food. That's what I want my food to be. I do not want to consume food or meat or fish that has gone through trauma. I feel as if it's passing that trauma right through to me. That toxicity is not for me. We're in the season for wild salmon now. So if you are thinking you want to make sure that you get yourself some good quality salmon, this is the time to get it. Wild salmon is available now and for the next few months, and then poof, it will be gone. And the only other way to get wild salmon would be frozen. Buying fish that is frozen at sea, at sea in the sense that when it's caught, is the best way to purchase fish, rather than I didn't even know this. Sometimes fish is on board a ship for like 2 weeks. Isn't that frightening? Can you imagine leaving a piece of fish in your fridge for 2 weeks and then buying it and then cooking it? I don't like the idea, right? So I have seen a lot of fish where it says frozen at sea or something like that. And that I like to buy. Again, all of these are much more expensive than if you're buying the regular stuff you get at the grocery store. So you really have to determine what you want to spend your money on. If it's worthwhile for you, spending that extra to make sure you don't get those nasties that you get for some of the farmed fish, or whether your budget just doesn't allow you to do it. And I can understand sometimes you just don't have the finances to do it. But if you are really concerned with your what kind of food you eat, and it's a priority for you, like it is for me, do some research before you just arbitrarily look at the label in the grocery store and say, well, that'll do for me. Make sure you're doing a research on your fish to make sure you buy quality fish. And so recently I reinvestigated looked into what I'm buying. And let me show you what I bought recently that I think is good fish. So I've got some fish here that I'm going to share with you today that I think ticks the boxes. And the first one, as in quality sourced fish. First one is organic farmed raised Atlantic raised salmon. As I mentioned previously, the kind of fish that is farmed, but it is when they're feeding the fish with pellets, it is infused with the same kind of vegetation should I say, that wild salmon is used to eating, and therefore it gives that lovely pigmentation. She's lovely, right? She's truly lovely. It's a nice piece of fish, and I look forward to cooking her. What else do I have here? I have some ocean perch. It says here on the packaging, quality should never mean compromise. That's why we work directly with fishermen and farms to bring our customers the freshest, sustainable seafood handled with passion and expertise. And that's why I like Fresh Direct, because they work directly with the fisheries. They work directly with farms. You're getting wherever, you know, majority of the time, you're getting some really good quality stuff. And so I'm making fish and chips tonight. Fish and chips. That's what we're having tonight. And I'm going to be using this perch. This perch she's pretty. Look at these pieces of fish. Now this is this is wild fish. Wild perch. I'm gonna get some flour, douse it in some flour with some seasonings, fry it, shallow. I prefer shallow, and then I'm gonna cook with some chips. That's what we're having for dinner tonight. And then finally, I got this. What is this? Jumbo branzino. Now, again, sustainably sourced fish, I believe, is the way to go. I think it's hard. I think it's really hard to determine you're getting the best quality. But if you go for seafood that has been sustainably raised, I think you're in a decent position. And so this is Jumbo Branzino. Look at this big, bad boy. Look. Oh, I love her. And I buy this. This isn't unusual for me. I buy Jumbo Branzino a lot. A lot. Look. Isn't it great? I love it. I really do. I really love this fish. I really love it. So it's farmed raised in a sustainable manner, which means you're not getting all those nasties. I better put this back together better. Once we're done with this video, I'll make sure it's put together nicely. And me and the wonderful man in my life, this will be a job. It'll be a job, well, more of a job for him because he eats head and everything. I'll politely eat a fillet and he'll do the rest of the work. But I'm looking forward to having this and maybe Sunday. So this will go in the freezer, except for the perch. I'm going to make that. I'm going to literally cook this. As soon as I'm done here, over to the stove I go and I'm going to cook the perch. Some of it, maybe I'll put some of it in the freezer, and I will wrap it up nice and tight. As soon as I've undid it, I would have left it, put it in a plastic bag so the frost doesn't get to it in the freezer, doesn't get sort of freezer burn. But nonetheless, I've opened it for you. So I'll wrap it up again nice and tightly, put it in the freezer, excuse me, for when I'm ready to cook them. But I try not to leave my fish in the freezer too long. I like to get to eating my fish as soon as possible. What is the point of spending money on fish if then that fish is not a good source of nutrients for you? So, heed my word if you want to make sure that you're having a better quality of fish in your diet. Do some research, look for sustainable sourced fish. From now on, stick to if I'm buying farmed salmon, stick to organic farmed salmon. There's coho. I actually don't like coho. And there's another one. God, I can't remember the name. They're too oily for me. I find they make me bilious. I love salmon, but the really oily salmon, it doesn't digest well with me. It makes me feel a little sick. So I can't, but there's also those. I skipped over them because I can't eat them, but they're also great. They're becoming ever more available now. So if you're looking for some other types of salmon, they're great too. If you found this information helpful, give me a thumbs up. If you just liked being here and listen to me ramble on about fish, again, thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe if you're interested in hearing what I've got to say about food. I'll be back soon. So until then, eat well. Take care. Bye-bye.